Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Next Level Real Talk Podcast, where we have conversations on the journey of personal transformation and the pursuit of lasting peace and happiness with Sheldon and David. And welcome to another episode of Next Level Real Talk Podcast with Sheldon and David and our special guest, Stephen from
Yep.
Belfast, Northern Ireland, all the way on the
Hello
other
out
side of the
there. How
world.
you doing, Stephen?
Oh, great. David, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me on to your podcast.
Hey, man,
It
we're
was
super excited to have you, So,
Mhm.
you just, I guess, a little bit of full disclosure, right? You're a lifelong friend of the family, my wife's family, right? You've known some of the Reynolds clan for forever, basically, right?
I've known the Reynolds clan from I was knocking about in Belfast as a 16-year-old. So
Yeah. So that's probably about a
I know them before they got to your side of the planet.
yeah, to the side. So that's
And
like
they all
David.
sort of moved off and says, right, we're all the way over here. So yeah.
right. So yeah, that's how we became introduced, right? Just through the family and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's super excited to have you, man.
Real quick question. This is totally sidebar stuff. So, have you lived in Ireland, Northern Ireland, your entire life? Is that
Yeah, I was going to live in Sweden for 2 years ago. I was going to move to Sweden, but that was another episode in my life, and we'll get to that maybe later
okay?
on.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
yeah,
Okay,
but I've lived in Ireland all my life.
awesome.
Tra-
Okay,
travel traveled a lot, but I've lived in Ireland. I love being a Belfast boy. I do love the fact that I am a Belfast boy, born and
cool.
bred, and in the height of the Troubles.
Love it. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and I don't know if that, I mean, I'm going to assume that that's part of your story, right? The troubles, where you grew up, right? That affects all of us, right? We were talking before we got on, families, birth order, all those things can matter, right? But your environment that you grew up in, right? Growing up in the troubles is
hmm
something that's very distinct and unique. And anyway, I don't know, what did you want to share with us?
I, I think with our group, Sheldon, I'll start when we were all about 16, myself and obviously the people we have spoken about,
Mhm.
and we were all starting to take our trades on and things like this here.
Yep.
And I took on the trade of being an ecclesiastical stonemason. So I done all the carvings around all the old buildings, and
Ah,
I was the first apprentice in Belfast for something like 50 years that
Wow.
was serving their time in Belfast from 50 years. And I absolutely loved it. One of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. And I loved that their job. But there's a story behind that too. At the end of my apprenticeship, which was 4 years, coming up to the end of those last couple of months of my apprenticeship, my uncle, who I served my apprenticeship under, he was going up and back and forth to this company up in Crumlin that was my van that was doing a load of work in the Middle East. And I thought to myself, when I finish my apprenticeship here, me and my uncle are going to the Middle East. And back then, what are you looking at? You're looking at 40 odd years ago. The salary was 50,000 a year, tax free. And I says, if 20-year-old going that'll set me up. I'll do 2 or 3 years in the Middle East, and that'll be me set up. So on the day that I finished my apprenticeship, my uncle turned around to me and says, "That's us." And I says to him, "What do you mean, that's us?" And he says, "I'm going to the Middle East, and you're not."
Mm.
So he was married into, my uncle was married to my mum's sister. Now, when I got home that Friday night, I can tell you, one F wasn't waiting on the other to come out, because I was 20-year-old and I thought I was going to the Middle East, and he had just dumped me now and says, "Right, you're on your own."
Mm.
wow.
That was on the Friday. By the Monday, I was self-employed, and by the time he came back in 2 years, I had 13 people working for me.
Wow.
Wow.
So you didn't, at least on the level of, the world and work and, taking care of business, you did not let that setback hold you back.
No, because I was always
Pivoted.
my mum always said to me, you're the most independent child, even when I was 1 or 2. She says you were the most independent child that I've ever seen. Just one of those people that I always sort of, oh, that's life, just get on with it, move on. I sort of always had that attitude about me with regards to what I did and what I enjoyed doing. But
Was
that also that go ahead.
was that business something completely unrelated to the stonework or your
Your
apprenticeship, or did you
apprenticeship?
No,
start?
it was. I just got a group of people together, and I had a few apprenticeships, and I had other people, and I was doing all the related work with stonework. So
Okay.
I had 13 people that we were working on old
Wow.
buildings. Maybe they needed new pointing, maybe they needed new stones put in or new stones cut, and I had the men in to do that. And
Wow.
I just was one of those things.
You're a
And
goer.
there's also a story behind that as well. One of the biggest influencers in my life was my grandmother. My grandmother was like myself; she was sort of like a straight talker. And even when I was an adult, I still went round to visit her maybe 3 or 4 times a week because she gave me so much wisdom and so much knowledge and so much little nuggets
Hmm.
that I never realized what they were actually until I got older. Like one of those nuggets was I was out walking with her, and I think it was about maybe 5 or 6, and I found a shilling, which was for a 5-year-old was like a fortune. It was like 5 fortunes,
Yeah.
and my eyes lit up, and I was like, "This here," the whole way along the walk. But she waited right till the very end of the walk, and she says, "You know, Stephen, if you keep walking about in life with your head down, you'll not be able to see the birds in the sky and everything else."
Mm,
And
wow.
I never really realized what she meant by that because I was only 5, obviously. And but as I got older, I realized the more she spoke to me before she died, she was telling me, look, no matter what's happened in the world, if you don't keep looking forward and trying to move forward, Stephen, and looking for the right side of things, if you're looking for the shit, you'll find it, Sheldon and
Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
But if you're looking
Hmm.
for the right things or looking for the lessons in life, you'll find them as well. So that's why she was very,
Wow.
very vocal on sort of putting those sort of thoughts in my head
So did you
with regards.
you visited
Go
her
ahead.
out as an adult all the way through your
Oh, until she died, I visit her 3 or 4 times a week,
beautiful.
and even
Wow.
every Saturday night, my mother and father's houses are in St Patrick's Chapel, where where I was christened those many years ago. As I was David, I don't know where Sheldon told you I was brought up as a Catholic in Northern Ireland, and back then days it was pretty interesting being a Catholic here, so it was. But I light 3 candles there every Saturday in there for my mum, my dad, and my grand. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I walk down into town. It's a 6 mile walk to the chapel, 6 miles there and back, and I do that every Saturday morning. And that's my quiet time, just to know that I'm going down to see those 2 people,
Wow.
those
Oh,
three
wow.
people. in my life.
That's beautiful. I do think,
Wow.
it's like old a very it's something that in America we've lost is this, respecting the elders, the
Yes.
previous generation and
Hmm.
wanting to tap into that and hear the wisdom. You know what I mean? I mean, that in and of itself is just a beautiful lesson because it's like I don't think we do that in America. We don't, we don't care. We put them away in senior homes. We don't ever visit. You know what I mean? And it just feels like that
But
whole transfer of wisdom is lost in America in a
I,
way.
I also think it's a very Irish thing as well for that,
Yeah.
Sheldon. I do think it's a very Irish tradition.
Mhm.
Now, over the last 10 years, 15 years, it has maybe got
Yeah.
watered down a bit. The way society has changed over here as well. But for myself, I always think that family is the first thing. Yourself and then family is the
Hmm.
first thing you should try and keep right.
Yeah. And I love Stephen, and that story of yours. I mean, we have our own path. Your path was to go to be that, do that internship, and then all of a sudden go with your uncle to the, where we go, Middle East. That was your plan. Well, there's another plan in life, and that was cool because you followed grandma and said, "Hey, this sucks." I mean, you could have gone into a deep hole and said, well, "This is not where I want to go. I want to go there and make all this money." But it wound up being a good thing because you kept your head up and looked at the skies and the birds rather than look at the sidewalk, which was so. I mean, I don't know if you purposely did that in your own brain, but it's obviously grandma was there. So that's a life lesson of like, hey, things are going to suck, but let's make it work. So,
No, no, you're right there, David. Because no matter where I am, where I am in life and what's going on in my world, there'll always be a nugget that'll pop up either from my grandmother or my father or my mother. It'll always be one of those little things that they said to me way back then, and they just obviously got their water and their sunlight and found their roots now and says, Stephen, this is where you need to use this. And I remember I have so many stories. You want me to just continue on with them? Like I'm
no,
just
just keep
thinking back.
talking.
There's so
I
many.
do have a question. Did you
Yeah, go ahead.
because I look at things like there's like a mental level and there's this emotional level, there's a physical level, there's a spiritual level. To me, that's how I look at things. There's 4 levels, right? There's a spiritual, um, mental, emotional, physical, and sometimes, in other words, if people uh, don't address things on a mental level or emotional level, a lot of times it'll manifest physically. I think that that's why a lot of times people get sick is they have not processed something on one of those other levels. And it feels like you're talking about processing stuff mentally, like, hey, I just shift the focus of my awareness onto something positive.
Oh,
So my question to you is did anything come up emotionally for you with all of that?
oh, 100%.
I would assume
There's
so.
loads of those, and
That's a big deal.
I'll get to the end when I'll get to the end, but
Okay.
there's some real heavy emotional stuff in there, and I will get to those.
Okay.
But just on going back to growing up in the Troubles, Sheldon, you asked
Yeah.
a question about growing up in the Troubles.
Yep.
When I grew up in the Troubles, we never got involved in it because we were too busy playing our sports and
Yep.
going to different nightclubs all over the place. The problem was too many people stayed in their own areas and associated with their own people, whereas myself and Stephen were the only 2 drivers. I don't know why you knew that. We were the only 2 drivers, so everybody wanted to be our friends. We didn't drink.
That's
And David,
Oh,
you know who I'm talking about? Stephen Reynolds here.
yeah.
Um, we didn't drink, so everybody wanted to be in our cars
Yeah.
because they had got a lift. But there was a rule to that there. They got a lift there. They weren't guaranteed a lift home, depending on how me and Stephen went on the dance floor. So, you know what I mean? If me and Stephen got girls that night, they had to make their own way home, and it
Hey,
was
you're
every
on your
man
own,
for
man.
themselves. So that was the dealings there. With regards to emotional things, I can tell you, Sheldon, and I'll come a lot forward now, and then we can bounce back as well. The This is the first year that I haven't actually cried every night. With
mm,
regards to in 2015, my world just completely unraveled. I mean, completely unraveled. And I came out of a marriage that was dead for maybe 5 to 10 years, where I stayed 5 or 10 years too long. And my father died in the same year, and I left work.
mm,
But with regards to the crown, I knew I had to leave the marriage because there was no one else. It was just that 2 people had just moved in different directions in life. And I understand that now. 2 people had just moved in different directions. And I can't say a bad word against my ex wife, but 2 of my children, still to this day, over 10 years, haven't spoke to me.
mm.
Wow.
And that's hard now. And that rips the heart clean out of me. This is the first time I've probably been able to speak about it without actually getting emotional, because I decided last year, come on, I always come the new year, I always see that as a new chapter in my life. I always see that as an opportunity. This is a window to assess last year, where it went and what went wrong, what I could have done better, and try and do that the following year. And I just said to myself, I still love the 2 of them and I'm always going to be there. but I can't bring myself down health wise because my health did fall through the floor from
Yeah.
2015. It took me a while to get that back.
Yep.
Excuse me. And 2015, that's when it all sort of kicked off, where my father was diagnosed terminal.
Mm.
And I decided to move out of the house and move in with my mother and father and give up work.
Wow.
And that to help look after my father.
Yeah.
Because I've had money and I've had no money, Sheldon. And to be honest, if I had him for another year, I would still give up work again to be with my father for another year.
What a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Get to see them in their. I mean, because you won't see them again. You know that. You know it's coming.
Again,
Wow.
I think that's
I have to have that belief, David, and have to have that belief in, like, I was always religious. I was a practicing Catholic, but I don't feel like I'm religious now. I feel like I'm more spiritual, and I don't actually follow a religious plan. But I always felt that there's a good heart in here for me, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet or anything. I always felt that I had a good heart, and I try to live my life right and try to treat people right and try to respect people and try to help other people. I've always tried to help other people because I've always found that's one of the things that gives you the most fulfillment when you give
Mhm.
something to someone else without
Amen.
expecting anything back in return.
Yeah. Being in
Yep.
service to
I've,
others,
al-
right?
I've always found that pulls me out of more holes than enough. Just by doing that, there, not letting other people into my world. My difficulty, Sheldon and David, is, and when I look back, my divorce papers came through there 2 weeks ago. I didn't go to the court, and I sent a text.
Mm.
I think I sent a lovely text to my wife now, and I'm not being. I says, look, there was people hurt on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't say a bad word about her because we have three brilliant children, three absolutely brilliant children. And I fought with my brother and sister when they tried to chirp in and say, "Oh, but there is no but. It's not
Mm-hmm.
their world, so it's none of their
Mm-hmm.
business to chirp in."
Yeah.
It's where you are, where you and your
Yeah,
ex-wife
it's
are.
where I am, and where I am with my like. I can't
Mm-hmm.
say I always brought my girls up, David, to make a decision that was right for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have obviously made a decision that they feel is right for them not to have their father in their life. I don't like it, but then I can't flip the coin and say, "Oh, only on this occasion you're okay to do it on this occasion."
Yeah.
I can't
Mm-hmm.
say that. Oh, every other time you make that decision for you is right, but it's not right this time.
Yeah.
I have to sort of respect that and then have the faith that they will both come back to me
Yeah.
and they'll ring up and say, "Yeah, Dad, just want to talk to you. Let's go."
Yeah.
And you can't force it on them because then that just pushes them more away. But they
No,
eventually gotta let them process through themselves to where yes, you hope that they come to you again and you're together.
But
So
it doesn't
yeah.
mean at the same time that you don't feel that pain, right? As a father, right? So it's like,
100%.
you can respect their desires and their, like you said, their commitment to living their life on their own terms and blah, 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 and whatever that means for them. But it doesn't mean that action doesn't cause you pain, right?
Correct.
And
Yep.
obviously that's where the tears are coming from. I do think it's a beautiful thing because it's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that to me is like so much for us as men in the world is this inability to express our emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or to feel our emotions, right? We normally lock them down. And I think that that's a very powerful characteristic of a Belfast man. if I do say so, I'm not a Belfast man, right? But
No,
my
no,
observation, locked down hard, locked down shut.
yeah,
I can put
yeah.
it in a vault.
I'm gonna tell you a story on that one too. That I have a story on that there. My mother, before she died, she turned around and says to me, "Stephen, you're my oldest son, and you're a complete enigma. I know absolutely nothing about you.
Wow.
Nothing about you." And she says, "Why do you not tell people what you've done? Because everybody thinks you're really cold heart and I says, Marie, anyone who thinks, I always called David, I always called my mum from I was about 13 or 14. I always called them Marie and Bill. I sort of was a cheeky choppy in the house. And the first time I said it, my father sort of looked at me. He only had an artificial eye, and he looked at me with the other eye, and he gave a wee grin, as if to say that would be our Stephen, that he would be the one to say that. She always says, why do you not tell people? She says, I've heard so many stories about you, and I says, well, I hope they're all good, Marie, and you're not going to tell me off because they're not all good, if you know what I mean. And she says, no. You always come across that you're cold-hearted, and I said, no, I'm not cold-hearted, Maria, and definitely not. When I said last week, Sheldon, when I got my divorce papers, I sort of thought what I could have done better. And one of the things that I maybe even moving forward for whatever time I have left on this planet is to maybe let people in a bit more.
Yeah.
Because I didn't let.
Yeah.
I would have been going back to the Belfast thing, like we're geezers here. Look at us. We can't cry. We're in the middle of troubles here. Fuck everything else. We can't feel lonely. We can't feel all that hurt that's going on. And I'm the oldest, so I can't be doing that at all. I can't be showing that weakness. But as I got older now, as I was thinking last week, I think it's important for me to let the right people get closer to me. The people who I love, that I can let them get that closer to me.
Yeah.
Stephen, we've talked about wolf pack. You know, like we talked about my situation, other situations. The people around me, I had 5 to 6 people that really were there, and that was my wolf pack that I didn't realize that those are the ones that helped me, and I had to open up, and even opened up to other colleagues and even my students at school. And it was like, you don't do that normally. You're not supposed to. You know, that's not the way society is in America. And I did, and I felt such a relief because they understood where I was coming from and they could support. And so that's a great thing that you're able to do, that is to find those people that can support you. And sorry going through that. If I could give a hug across a continent, I would give you a big hug. I hope you feel that. Whenever you need some, yes, big hug across the Exactly. So,
did you
Sheldon?
Just said you got your divorce papers 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
It started 10 years ago. Did the process take that long? Or you just
No, it didn't take that long, because what happened, Sheldon, when we only separated in 2015, me being me, I says I'll put the divorce papers in myself so everybody can get a clean cut. Now, I walked away with the shirt on my back, and I don't mean that in a bad way that she came after everything. I just was in such a low place in my life that I just walked away, left all the bank accounts, give her the house, signed over the house, give her the bank accounts, and I hadn't got 2D in my bank.
Wow.
I hadn't got 2D. And I remember my brother-in-law, who's married to my sister, I asked him, because my sister's his second marriage, I says, what's the process? And he always said to me, buy a good shirt. And I says, what do you mean by that? And he says, buy a good shirt, because if you're going down the road you're going down, Stephen, that's all you'll have is a shirt on your back.
Wow.
So that's, and I sort of accepted that. And Adrian, our friend Sheldon and David, I don't know why you've ever met Adrian. I'll go back to what you said, David, about having 4 or 5 people that they were your wolf pack. I maybe have 3 or 4, but even on that there, the 3 or 4 wouldn't know the full story about me.
Yeah.
They would all know different pieces of it, maybe.
Yeah.
And they would never confide with each other, oh, Stephen told me this or Stephen told me that. So they maybe have 3 or 4 different pieces.
So to each one of them, you're still an enigma.
I still haven't let anyone into the full story of how Stephen's feeling or where he is or anything like that.
Why do you think that is?
And I think it is, Sheldon, because I've always had this thing about myself that my problems are nobody else's. I shouldn't be burdening anybody else with what's going on in my world. If I can help them with their world, then that's okay with me. But they don't need to have my burdens.
A little bit of oldest child, mentality.
Probably most likely that's where that comes from now, to be honest.
I'm taking care of the little, your siblings, but I got to be
Yeah.
strong and be the leader and be an adult here in that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that causes you to sort of like take on that role.
I would think that I would say that's what it is, because I always remember my mum saying to me, you're the glue between the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have a brother and a sister. And I said to her, Marie, see if I didn't contact them two, they would never contact me. And here she is, I know,
Oh.
but that's the nature of those two. That's not to say they wouldn't be there if you needed them. And I says,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't really know. And then she obviously got me on that one. She says, you don't really know because nobody really knows what's going on in Stephen's world. She sort of set the bait for me and I took it.
Yeah. Right at you, huh?
Wham! Oh. Hey, Dave, you were going to say something?
Yeah. So it's the thing you're so like me, Stephen. I'm sorry that you're like me, in a good way. We care so much about others. That's our job is care. We don't care about ourselves, and we don't let others care for us. At times, it's like, wait, I'm okay with myself. It's all about caring for other people, and that's the thing I've learned in my life is like I need to let people be taking care of me or just caring for me. And that it's okay to open up on some things. I'm like, you don't know about open up at all, but it's a lesson that I've learned that it's okay, to let people help because I never want people to help me. I'm always a giver, not the receiver. And so I'm learning to receive, as Sheldon and I've talked before, to be that receiver. So that's a hard road to travel, but it sounds like you're kind of getting in that spot, so which is kind of awesome. So
I'm getting there bit by bit.
yeah,
And I
it
know
takes a while. It's not easy.
I know I think it's hard because I'm notoriously stubborn, if you know what I mean. Apparently that's a trait of Tauruses, and that they are the bull and they get something
Oh,
in their
you guys are
head.
both Tauruses.
I know. I'm
Oh,
thinking.
right.
I'm
There
thinking
you
I
go.
met. I'm thinking I met my other person on the other side of the continent,
Oh,
on the
no,
other side of the
He's a
world.
Taurus too. Oh
Yeah,
shit!
hold on a minute. I'm better looking. I still have her. So, you know what I mean? I still have her. That's the old her, the old me. So I'm
Oh my
still
gosh!
okay there. The
I got to travel to Belfast to be my other person, so I can't wait.
But apparently we're supposed to be really,
That is
really,
that is
really
part of the
stubborn and
archetype.
really pig-headed, and we don't let people in just as much. But
Yeah.
in saying that, as I've got older, Dave, I'm quite happy where my peace is now this last few years. And I mean my peace, life doesn't, I never really looked at, I remember when my father died, I was at 11 funerals that year, right?
Wow.
And 7 of them were family.
Wow.
That's how many of them were family, between cousins and aunties and uncles. There were
Wow.
7 of them in family. And I remember one of my cousins saying to me, Stephen, when's this all going to end? And I said, this is in the graveyard, I says, well, really, I don't think we're getting any more than anyone else. We're just getting all ours at once.
Wow.
And she went, oh, well, fuck you, Stephen. That's not what I wanted to hear. No, that's what she said to me. And I says, that's just the way I'm looking at it. I think we're getting them all at once. I don't think I don't think anyone in the world, as I said earlier on, gets any more shit than anyone else.
Yeah.
They may get different shit.
Yeah.
They may get shit that runs really quickly through your life, or they
The
may get
timing
shit
may
that
be
takes you
spread
hard.
out. Yeah,
It takes you harder to get it out, if you know what I mean. To get
Yeah.
over it. They but I just think that's part of life, and it's how we deal with them. And I have some techniques that I use now, how I deal with them. I know when I'm in my high positive, my low positive, my high negative, my low negative. I'm very aware of that. 3 times a day I ask myself, my alarm goes off on my phone, and 3 times a day I ask myself, where are you, Stephen? Meaning, where am I in my head? And then I go and do some breathing, some nasal breathing, or go out for a walk just to change that mood so as I don't drift drastically into the negative elements.
So what is I have two things that I'm curious about. But okay, so I'm just to remember there's two things.
Is it two?
Two. I'm sorry. That's a Belfast. That's a yeah. Did not mean it like that. I mean
I know
two.
you did.
So, but one of them is when you say, okay, so you have this alarm goes off and it shifts you. So it's a trigger for you to say, hey, take like an inventory of where's your head. Is that what you're saying?
100%.
And what do you
And it's go ahead.
go ahead? And you said you did breathing or something like that. So
I just do. If I can't go out for a walk, depending on where I am and how what mood I'm going to shift into, Sheldon, it might just be that I just need to go and do 2 or 3 minutes nasal breathing. I only do nasal breathing in through the nose and out through the nose
mhm.
because I came across this thing that newborns don't breathe through their mouth.
Yeah. Okay.
They nasal breathe
Okay.
because it relaxes their veins and releases nitric oxide
Okay.
into their veins, which gives them a better flow of blood around their body. So I read that there and it says, right, I'm going to try that with my nasal breathing. And it calms me right down. I just can step back and go, you know what, Stephen, it's okay. I need to sort of either go and do something that keeps me in that low positive or the high positive. Because I don't want to be in either of them too long.
Mm-hmm.
If I stay in the high positive too long, I always feel you'll slowly but surely drift into a high negative where you still have loads of energy, but everything's being forced.
Okay.
And I try not to make any decisions in the two negatives because I usually have to go and apologize to someone.
And that's a great thing
You
to
know what I
do.
mean? So I know that now.
Exactly.
You posted that on Facebook, this LH or something.
Yeah,
You didn't.
yeah.
You didn't explain it, and I was just like,
that's what that was.
okay.
That's what that was.
Stephen, I love, Stephen, how you talk about you take a moment when you're going to that negative. It's like, okay, where am I at? What's going on here? And noticing it and accepting it. This is where I am. Rather than saying like, ugh, I'm just going to get rid of that and go on with my life. You stop and basically, like we say, stop, drop, and breathe. When you're doing that exact thing, you're stopping and
Yeah.
going, okay, let's stop everything, get away from this. Where am I at? What do I need to do to process through this? And I love how you're doing that because that's going to help you. I know tons if it hasn't already. So love that.
And even I'm very aware of what my mentor put me on to the three weeds that we all have, and the three weeds are complaining, blaming, and excuses.
What was the second one?
Complaining, blaming, and
Oh.
excuses, and we all have them, and we're all. And the thing about weeds is, you don't see anybody running about with a bag of weeds planting them. They sort of creep up on you a bit. They creep up, and then if you don't look after them,
in between the cracks in the concrete.
Yeah, and they just take over everything. So if we think of those weeds in our head, and I sort of use that very, very all the time now. I'm very aware of that. There, what weeds I'm letting in.
So I do have this other question. The second question that came in a while ago, and I've been meaning to ask this. So you said that this last year was the first time since for a long time, 2015 probably,
Yep.
that you haven't been crying every night.
Yeah.
So when you were crying every night, do you know what that was about, and how did that feel for you?
Oh, every time it came about, Sheldon, it was always something, and it could be absolutely something really stupid.
Okay.
But it always boiled back to the two girls not speaking to me. That was the main thing. It was always that it boiled back to, and that just saying to myself, you know what? And it could have been a simple song. It could have been a song. It could have been a dog because they had a dog and they loved the dog and I remember things. But it could have been absolutely the simplest thing that like I maybe heard some music that they enjoyed or something like that there, or like even this week I was doing a program in the schools. You've seen that I'm doing a program in the schools called the Super U, and it's bringing all these sort of techniques for pupils to bring into their world. Now, the breathing and the four quadrants, they absolutely love that because they can calm themselves down and realize what mood they're in really, really quickly and how they change that. And they know
Wow.
how to change physiology by their state by maybe going for a walk or focusing on the three questions that I asked them to keep asking themselves. Is it right for them? Is it worth doing? And will it help other people?
That's
Wow.
beautiful.
And,
Yes,
and, and the kids, the pupils absolutely have bought into the being aware of what mood they're in and being aware of is it good for them? Is it worth doing? And will it help other people?
Hmm.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Wow.
I can bring us back to, I know David asked me earlier on, had I always lived in Ireland? Yes, I always lived in Ireland. I had this thing
Mhm.
once my mother died there in 2022. That once we sorted out the house and everything else, that I was going to go away because the two siblings, should I say, they're always they're always at it with each other. It's always a peace process with them, if you know what I mean. They're always fighting and arguing because they have different views on. They can't just let it go that he has different views on her and she has different views of him, and then I'm piggy in the middle. Like even the
Hmm.
conversation I had with the brother yesterday, I said to him, "Look, guy, I love the two of you to bits, and I'm not getting pulled into anybody's side. And you can either make up now. I don't like the idea that you're not talking. You can either
Hmm.
make up now or make up at my funeral when you're standing at the side of the grave. It's entirely up to you what ways want to look at that." And they sort of went, "Oh, we'll go before you." I says, "I don't give a shit whether you will or not, but if I go before you too, because I'm the oldest, you'll have those regrets." Make it up. But going back to
I
when you
love it.
asked the question, I sort of had the feeling that I would go away and let them two just settle down and be away from them for a year, and I was going to go to Sweden. And I got to Sweden, and Sweden was an absolute like proper hellhole. I had I had accommodation to go to see over the week I was over, and I knew. Do you ever go to a place or you go into a bar and you just know from the first minute you arrive there, there's something doesn't feel right here.
uh,
Hmm.
this is not for me.
So that's exactly when I landed. I landed in Copenhagen and got the train over into Sweden, and I just knew, here's me. No, this isn't going to be for me.
Hmm.
And I went to all the accommodation and seen the accommodations just and followed through on the week. And I came home and I decided to move maybe 70 miles away from Belfast up the north coast to um, up the north coast beside the sea for a year. And that was probably one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life because I am a people person. Although I'm very private, I am a people person.
Hmm.
So I isolated myself and I sort of drifted into that loneliness of being on my own.
Hmm.
And I came back. My landlord said he was going to put the rent away through the roof, and I says, "No bother, I'll move back to Belfast and I'll get somewhere to live in Belfast." Now, this is where the story takes a real twist, David. They I came back to Belfast and I couldn't get any accommodation,
Hmm.
and I ended up in Hotel Applegreen. Now I'll tell you what Hotel Applegreen is. Hotel Applegreen is a car park in multi petrol stations or filling stations, as you may call them over there, that you could park in overnight. And I ended up homeless for 2 months, three
Oh
months.
wow.
Now, my sister found out and she went absolutely ballistic. She went totally ballistic because I didn't actually tell her. Back to
Hmm.
that door, I didn't tell anyone. And even my friend Adrian, he sort of gave me a wrap around the hands too and says, "Stephen, what the fuck are you at like?" And I ended up in the car park. I was using the leisure centres or sports centres, maybe what they're called over there. I was using them every day to get cleaned, and I was washing my clothes in the laundriettes, still working. and I couldn't get accommodation anywhere, and I ended up homeless. So my sister took me in for 2 months, and then she started getting worried because she says, "Stephen, we have a load of guests coming over." I says, "No bother, I have somewhere lined up." I didn't have anywhere lined up. I told her that and moved out, and then I was homeless for another 2 months. But I remember three
How long-
o'clock in the morning. See, about 5 months in total, Sheldon.
Wow.
About 5 months in total. I remember at 3 o'clock in the morning, no matter whether it's summer or winter, a car can get very cold.
It's been Ireland. Jesus Christ.
So
That is what? Oh my God.
I used to switch the car on at 3 o'clock in the morning. The way the big massive, it was a motorway petrol station or filling station. No, you're coming off a big main.
Yeah.
I don't know what we call them, motorways here. I don't know what you call them.
Like an interstate or freeway.
Highways or interstate, freeway. So the way it was set up, you could have drove right around the petrol station, the filling station. So at 3 o'clock nearly every morning, I drove around the petrol station, round and round and round, with a heat on, so I could get more a few hours sleep before I could go to work. What?
Before you froze to death again, try to warm up, thaw out the body a little bit.
Before I could go to work, and then I went to work, and I was doing some work for some clients, and I was working from a hotel lobby, just using their internet. So you always I think you get very resilient of when things come into your life. You find sort of new skills that you didn't think were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on that, I remember it was 3 o'clock one time, and it was totally freezing, and I just burst out laughing. I mean, proper belly laughing. And it says, "Is that all you've got? Like, is that the only thing I have to worry about here, like, in life?" and I really, and people say to me, "Steve, you didn't say it yourself here, mate." I did. I was absolutely falling about laughing. And it says, and I turned around and it says to God, and I says, "God, is that really all you've got for me? Is that
nice
and that's
challenge.
what I said. I apologize for that, because maybe he may have threw me some more shit. In fairness, he hasn't. Saying, because then I'm in my own place now, and things are really in a good place now where they're starting to go.
So how long ago was that? That wasn't that long ago?
No, that was only 2 years ago.
Wow.
But and one big thing I got out of that, Stephen, was you went into that, that hotel, the car hotel, and you didn't tell anybody. But there are two people upset with you because they're like, "Hey, we want to help you, but we don't."
Yeah.
I was that same way too. I was like, "I don't want to tell anybody. It's my world. It's my problem, not yours." Like, no, we're here to help you. I'm like, okay, my bad. But we're afraid, as I'm gonna say, as men, to say I'm having a problem. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's upsetting. It's like, that's not me. That's not what I should be. But it's like, no, there's people there to help you because we all go through that crap. As you said, we all go differently.
I think we all do go through it. And I say, David, I know Sheldon's probably one of your closest friends now, or you probably maybe have other closest friends. And Sheldon will know who my closest friend on this planet is. It's Adrian, and he is. I know I can ring him up and depend on him for whatever it is. In my world, he'll know most of it. He calls me,
and yet you
see
didn't
you
even
next
call
Tuesday
him.
every week, like.
And yet you didn't even
So
call
sorry.
him. And yet
No. He went nuts. He actually, when he found out. But when you hear what happened when he found out, he actually was the one that phoned my sister.
Oh.
He was the one that phoned my sister and says, "Tracy," because he would know my sister, and he says, "Tracy, do you know where your Stephen's living?" And she then, obviously being the baby, she went absolutely ballistic. And this is the thing, David. I don't know why you've ever been in that position before, or yourself, Sheldon. But people aren't in it. People, they might be your closest friends. They're not really in a position to take someone into their house.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own world going on, and they have their own children, they have everything else, and you'd be upsetting their whole world. So they're not real. It's not that people didn't want to actually say, "You know what, you can come and stay in my house." They just weren't in the situation. Maybe mothers were living with them, or fathers, or something like that there.
kids, or
So,
the whole.
so
Mhm.
there's a Buddhist. I think I've actually mentioned on the podcast before about giving, where oh, I'm going to give to the poor, I'm going to give to the homeless, I'm going to give, right? Like I'm a giver, like we were talking about. Oh, I like to help people, right?
Yeah.
I'm in service to
Mhm.
other people, and the story was something about, and I don't remember what it was, but um, person wouldn't accept anything, right? He
Mhm.
wasn't unwilling to receive. And then, like the Buddha says to him, you're denying that person their karma. In other words, they want to accrue good karma too by giving, right? And when you
Yeah.
refuse to receive, you're actually doing them a disservice in their life. Like they
Yeah.
can't be nice, they can't be
Mhm.
supportive because you're not allowing it, right? You're not allowing anybody to be nice and supportive of you. Um, so that's something worth contemplating, right? It's just like, okay, because I think everything is a balance, right? That's a very Taoist yin
Yeah.
yang kind of thing, right? It's all about balance, right? Yes, we want to give and be in service, but can we allow support and vulnerability for ourselves, right? Do you think that it sounds like you've always been extremely independent, right? Like the leader of the family, the oldest son, the whole nine
Just,
yards, right?
just,
Just
just a
just a
wee
wee
bit, I
bit, just a wee bit, right?
think.
So like that's
I think
there.
that wee bit's a lot bigger
That's
than a
there.
wee.
Yeah.
No, that wee bit, that wee bit is a big problem for me as a
Yeah.
staircase.
Right. And then I would assume that the divorce didn't help that. Like the one person that
Mhm.
I'm gonna let all the way in, my
Mm.
wife also, you know, betrays me or
But
whatever you want to say. I'm not
no,
I'm
no,
not
no, no,
you know
no betrayal
or
whatsoever. We
yeah,
just grew apart there.
you grew apart, right? But that's still a letdown, right? That's still like, oh shit,
Mhm.
I didn't know
That's
that.
hard.
So I'm gonna assume, you tell me if I'm wrong, that would also reinforce this idea in your own mind, which is already there a wee bit, right? That you can't rely on anybody else but myself. I'm
Mhm.
the doer. I'm the maker. I'm the one who's
Wow.
going to take care of me. I'm the one who's going to, you cannot rely on
Mhm.
people because all they do is let you. Is that,
No, I never really thought about it that way, Sheldon, but I'll tell you what I did think of it. And when I got the divorce final days there 2 weeks ago, what I did realize was, even though I loved her and we had some real fantastic times, we have three brilliant kids, I didn't let her in,
yeah,
which was the problem. I didn't
yeah,
let her in, which probably was one of the
Mm.
problems.
yeah,
The closest
Yeah.
person to me on this planet,
yeah,
and I didn't let her in fully.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that when I sat down, as I say, 2 weeks ago, if I had one thing to do different, that would have been one thing that may have saved my marriage.
yeah,
Had I
Yeah.
let her in more,
sure,
because she obviously wanted in,
yeah,
and she
Mhm.
probably thought that I was freezing her out of everything that was going on in my world.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
from there, I've sort of said, you know what, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to try and let more people in. Now, as David said earlier on, that's hard sometimes to do that when you've grown up. Like, I'm 63 next May, and it's hard to sort of say, well, at 63, I'm going to start letting people in, when you really went, no, you just keep your distance
yeah,
there.
for your whole
Boy,
life,
So
boy,
right?
his divorce story sounds just like mine. I didn't. I
So
was not letting Kristen in.
moving
Yeah.
forward, that's one of the things I'm going to try and do, is let more people in.
Yeah,
And I'm very I always
Mhm.
I always carried a gratitude journal. I always have done a gratitude journal, and I make sure now that the people who are important to me. And I don't want a big circle. I'm not. I don't want. I'll help everybody on the planet if I think that they're taking on board anything, but I don't want a big circle of really close friends, and I don't want a big circle of people who are going to get into my world. And that
Yeah.
may go back to that point of, yeah, Stephen, you need to maybe just let that independence go a bit.
Mhm.
yeah,
And going back to an episode a while back, because when I went through my blood pressure episode, a friend and colleague, Kai, God bless you, Kai, came up to me and said, "Let me do something for you. You're not letting," exactly what Sheldon was saying a minute ago. "This is my chance to be your friend. I mean, you've given so much. Let me give to you. So you're hampering me from being your friend and allow me to help." And so it's like, you got to let those people like, oh, okay, I didn't think of it that way. You're right. I got to let my friends help me. So that's a really big, hard step again, because it's like, no, I can take care of myself.
It is
But
a hard,
no.
I find now, David, my best way to deal with it is just say thank you and then let that sink in for me. If
Yeah.
you know what I mean,
Yep.
just say thank you. If
Yeah,
somebody
good.
gives me a compliment, say, Stephen, you did this for me, you did that for me, blah, blah, blah. I just say, I'm always, and I'll always thank people, I don't thank people in public. I'll go and thank them personally and make it personal to them
Mm,
because it was
good.
personal, whatever they did for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very aware of what people have done for me now. Maybe I've mellowed a bit. I'm not as stubborn now, David. I don't know about you, but I'm not as. I sort of let more. I feel like I have more peace about myself now, and that you know what,
Mm-hmm.
if people don't want to bother with me, that's okay. And you know, Sheldon, I have this saying: love me or hate me, there's no value in the middle. And I don't really care. I am Stephen.
Mm,
And if you warm to Stephen, you'll have someone who'll be on your side the rest of his life. And if you don't, I'm not going to hate you or fall out with you because life's too short to have hate and anger and rage in you because it only comes out on how you treat people if you go about with that.
sure.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you I know that you read a lot and have you ever read any of that or explored any of the Brene Brown stuff on vulnerability? She talks about the
No,
vulnerability. Brene Brown, she has she did a TED talk and it got like 14 million views and she blew up. She was literally this abstract college professor, research professor, and she happened to be researching happiness. And she gives a TED talk and it absolutely explodes, and then she does a TED talk a year later. That thing exploded. But a lot of it is about vulnerability, and she calls it a vulner. She talks about herself being a fifth generation Texan, and lock and load was our family motto. And
yeah.
she's like hard at heart, you know, and she's hilarious, but she also is really really poignant about talking about this idea of vulnerability. About that she goes, you ever one of her stories is she like you see anybody on stage here telling their whole life story and spilling their guts and blah blah blah, and what do you think about them? And she goes, you think about how courageous and how brave they were and how admirable that was to come up here and share their life story. And she goes, but if you're going to do it, what do you think? You're weak. Like when you see vulnerability and
Mm-hmm.
sharing your story for yourself, you feel weak doing it. But when you see somebody else do it, you go, wow, that's so courageous and inspiring. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? She goes,
How
you have to
awesome of them to do it. Yeah.
you got to flip the script in your brain and say, yeah, I'm being courageous. And what a beautiful thing is to
Mm-hmm.
share my heart, right? To share who I am on a deeper level, right? And that's obviously not easy for us guys, right? That's been part of my journey
Yeah.
too, right? Is like as a
Mm-hmm.
man, you know, crying means you're weak and all this kind of stuff, and showing your emotions is lame or whatever, right? And yet that is the most courageous thing that we can do, is
Mm-hmm.
to kind of soften all of that stuff, right? And it's a process, right? But I think a beautiful one, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little story on that one too. Like, say, they Sheldon, you know I'm heavily involved in Toastmasters International, don't you?
Yes, yes.
I, I coach people on public speaking outside of Toastmasters, and
Mm,
I brought it into the schools and all. And we're getting children up to speak and things like that there.
awesome.
But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I tell them when executives come to me or something like that there is to incorporate their story into their presentation. And I
Mm-hmm.
say, look, it's important that you and when I'm speaking, I let a little bit of vulnerability, and I think it's getting the balance
Yes.
of because we can get up and pour out so much vulnerability that everybody's going, oh, poor little Stephen, blah blah blah. It's that little bit of vulnerability. You don't want them to think, oh, he's only up there looking sympathy.
Uh,
Mm,
It's that little bit of vulnerability that you can share with people that they can relate to that one
mm-hmm.
point that makes a difference to their life. And I'm hoping some of the vulnerability I've shown this evening
yeah.
has will maybe help someone to say, you
Yep.
know what, that little bit of vulnerability, he's not getting on looking pity from me or anything like
Yeah.
that there.
Mm-mm.
I,
I think it's
that's important that we do share that those bits.
yeah, it's just like you were saying. I say thank you intimately one on one with that person because so they know that I'm serious and they know what it meant to me, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
There's a kind of vulnerability when you're on stage talking to 500 people and you're sharing an intimate story, but there's also a kind of vulnerability when you're one on one with somebody, like your wife, like your kid. You know what I mean?
What
Like
are
your
yeah,
they going to
like
think
your
about me?
best
Because
friend,
yeah,
and you say
like,
something about like for me, literally one of the hardest things with Jacqueline, my wife, which who you know, was to tell her that she hurt me. Like when you said
mhm.
hurt my feelings, that was like it makes me want to
yeah.
cry. That's like literally one of the hardest things to do because I'd
Mhm.
rather be a man, lock it down, stoic, not let you know because that's a form of weakness, right? That is like a typical male thing. I'm not
Be
going to let you know that
vulnerable.
you hurt me, right? So for me to literally just say, when you said that it hurt my feelings, I think the first time I did it, I was like literally broke down crying just saying those words. Like it's such a
Mhm.
hard thing to be able to let somebody know how I truly felt emotionally, right? Is so hard. That is
Mhm.
so fucking hard, right? It's just to be
It
able to
is.
say, hey, that hurt my feelings. I feel like such a fucking pussy or whatever. You know what I mean? All these thoughts come in your head.
Whatever, get over it.
Mhm.
Oh, fuck you. You know what I mean? And so all this shit will
Yeah.
come up in your brain and you have to like kind of, it's like, okay, it's like you said, you check in, calm that stuff down and just say it anyway. Oh my God. And yet that kind of thing is the thing that I think has brought us closer. Like you were saying, like, hey, maybe to do it again, that thing is what, that openness, um, is something that is very healing, right? When again, doing it with the right people, right? Being you can't just do that with everybody, right? Being selective and mindful about who it is that you're willing to share. To me, that's like this whole idea of casting pearls before swine kind of symbolism is just like, hey, you don't want to share your heart with somebody who's a total narcissist asshole who's just going to stomp all over you and laugh at you, right? You don't want to do that. But
Mhm.
at the same time, do you want to can you find the right person to say, hey, can you got a moment or whatever that is, and start that journey of truly vulnerable and open.
Yeah.
um
And
Not an easy thing, right?
and Stephen, you talk about you hope somebody can understand or hear your story. That's the one thing about this podcast. If we told at the beginning, and Sheldon wants more, we all want more. If we touch one person, we've done our job.
Yeah,
Okay, obviously we want to touch
there's no
more
doubt
people,
this will be touching
right?
people, I think.
Yeah, I know that. We'd love to have
Yeah,
so many different stories because what I went through, maybe three people can understand, but what you go through, it maybe three people can understand. So it's like it's a different way of going through it and
yeah.
hearing it. So know that this story has made a difference for somebody, and we will hopefully hear from them. But know that what you say and what you talk about, we appreciate it because it's been great.
It's
Hey, I met my other person, so on this other side of this world, I
But
love it.
see
It's
on that, David. I'm going to share something. I have a mantra.
yeah.
Well, I always had a mantra. My mantra in life is to try and impact as many people's ripple in a positive way as I
Mhm.
possibly can. Now,
Mhm.
I received a text during the week, and I'll just a wee example of you don't know how far the ripple actually goes or who it hits and who it touches, and that's real living when you get texts like this. I think it was Wednesday of this week, and it was from a friend of mine who I had shared the four quadrants with. He suffers from anxiety, and he says, "Look, just think of the four quadrants and think of where you are. Think of your breathing." So he shared it with his sister and explained it to her, who's in a bad place. He says she's in a bad place, has a lot going on in her world. And she sent him a text or she phoned him on Wednesday morning and he sent it straight on to me. He says, "Stephen, my sister just sent me this and it says, I've been using them four quadrants and I use it every day and it's making such a difference in my world and what's happening." So she thanked her brother and he sent me a text saying, "Stephen, your ripple is going further than you think."
Awesome.
it's beautiful, man.
Wow.
So
That's real.
I don't really look for the pat on the back, anybody to come and say,
No.
"Well done, Stephen. Woohoo, Stephen's brilliant." But when I hear that they're coming from and I shared that with the pupils yesterday and Thursday, I shared that with the pupils and I read out the text and I says, "Now, how do you think my day was?" And they says, oh, I would say it was pretty special the rest of the day. I says, yes, because we all have a choice, but we don't get to choose what the consequences are of our choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is
Wow.
beautiful.
We got to have you back and talk about 4 quadrants. And all that
Yeah, I
kind
feel
of
like we
stuff.
need, that could be a whole
Yeah, a whole
thing
other
right there,
episode.
just literally going over that. I feel like we need to do
Yeah.
that. I don't know if you're up for that. I
Yeah.
literally
So down the road,
You call me back if you wish.
same thing
Yeah.
was
Maybe
going
call
in
me
my head,
back.
Dave.
And just as you said, David, I just hope that somebody gets some value out of this evening and what I've said, because as I said earlier on, we all have shit. And we may have different shit, and it's hard we deal with that. And if someone's experience can help you through some of what you're going through,
Mm-hmm.
then because I think we all have a purpose on this planet, whether we believe it or not. I think we all have a purpose,
Mhm.
and I think it's to find our unique self, because our unique self is living on that highest vibration that we can possibly be is love. Like love your neighbor, love yourself, love the planet. If we done all those things, there wouldn't be as much garbage going on as there is.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, for sure. I'm
Yeah.
with you 100% on that. And it's really hard, right? I think it is a challenge. And we've talked about this many times on this podcast about being authentic. That's what you're talking about, right? Just being you.
Yeah.
Just be your authentic
What is
self.
your unique signature in this world? How do you, and the highest vibration is love, but how do you express that love, right? You might do it in teaching people and doing it. Somebody else might do it through their art and painting these beautiful things that bring a little bit of beauty into somebody's life
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, joy. And we all have that unique expression. I have a friend who loves to cook for other people, right? And cooking,
Yeah.
he's like, it's sustenance. It's a primal thing that we all need, And when I cook for somebody, it makes them feel good when he sees a smile on their face. Wow, that's delicious, So we all have that way, our own unique signature, our unique authenticity, right? Our authentic expression of love. That's how I look at it, right? It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and you've found yours, right? It feels like, right?
I think I always had it, Sheldon,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
let some stuff go and just say, you know what, Steve, just let it go. And I know Mel Robbins has that gift of let them. And when you get to that point of just let them, and then you can't change people if they want to change. You can only be there if they want to change.
yeah.
And Sheldon, I was a bit worried about this. I don't know where Sheldon has told you this story. I posted it on Facebook, Sheldon, about the lady in the restaurant. Remember that I was in the restaurant with my friend having lunch, and 2 tables across from us, this lady came in and was sitting with her friend. Now, there was something really, really beautiful about the woman. How she held herself, how she addressed other people, how she was with her friend, how she was with the staff. You couldn't put your finger on it, but there was something really beautiful about her. And I said to my friend, he says, "You're nuts, tomorrow. You're going to get into trouble."
Don't go over there and say anything.
No, I'm going to go over, Dermot. His name was Dermot. Says, I'm going to go over because I don't think people give compliments or things enough, especially men. And I think you made a point in
I
the
did.
post, Sheldon, that
Yep.
it takes courage. Us men need to be aware of how we approach women. So, David, I went over to this woman and I says, "Look, don't mean this in a bad way, and I just want you to take it as it is. You're absolutely beautiful. How you hold yourself, how you deal with other people, how you've dealt with staff and your friend." And she says, "You know what? You've made my day." And her friend turned around and says, "That's such a lovely thing to say to someone." Now, as you come back to Sheldon, there's a whole load of things in there. First of all, they took the compliment in the real
The way it was
essence of
intended.
what it
Yeah.
was, the
Yeah.
way it was intended,
Yeah.
and they actually give me back the same
Yeah.
tenfold.
Yeah.
And that brought me back to Denzel Washington's quote where he says, "The most selfish thing you can do in this planet is to do something for someone else without expecting anything back."
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. The most selfless thing, right? Right.
Because of the endorphins it gives you,
Mhm.
no selfish thing
Oh,
you can
yeah.
do.
I got you. Yeah.
So it's because, and one of the young pupils, he says, I don't really get that, Stephen. And I says, well, see, then just go and do it this week.
Yeah.
And he says, what do you mean? I says, just go and do something for someone this week without
Mhm.
expecting anything back, and see how you feel about you.
Yeah.
See how your health feels. See how where your energy goes to, and
The
then come
Dalai
back
Lama
to
has
it.
a quote like that. Yeah, he's just like, I'm totally selfish because I just do things for people. It makes me feel good. So
Yeah.
it's in a weird, it's kind of selfish, you know. And he's like,
And,
but I feel
just
so
with,
good.
we're all have a smile on our face and laughing there, and it
Yeah.
just brought me back to another thing that the wee silver-haired lady told me. She said, Stephen, now I was all very young when she was telling me all these things as we were going along. She says, Stephen, when you smile at someone, you make two people happy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's beautiful.
That is cool.
And those
I
simple
love it.
things, and it is only a smile to someone may just make their day, and you might just say, "You okay there?"
Yep.
And you don't know what that means to them.
Yep.
Exactly. Reach out.
I think
Yeah.
Dave's got a whole list of notes.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking. Sorry, people. I'm looking down because I've been writing notes. And I got a page full, but I got homework. I do have homework.
Is that good, David? Is that good, or is that
No, it's good.
bad?
No, it's
good.
great. 'Cause
It's
it's
got a
stuff that I
page
go back
full.
and look at. I go like, okay, I got to do
Tons
this.
of nuggets in there.
Yeah, Steven said this. So I'm gonna do this. I got to follow this now. No, it's all good stuff.
All right, right.
Yeah.
Does
So-
Dave take Dave? Do you take all the nuggets that everybody's throwing in here and sort of say, "All right,
So
I've got
first
the
off-
plan. I know what these two are at now. You aren't
Okay.
trying to share their love. You're getting all them nuggets, and then you're going to correlate them in the book and sell the book.
So as a teacher,
Hey, that's
Steven,
an
as a
idea.
teacher, you teach
Yeah,
all hours.
there you go.
Okay, these are the things we got to go back to. You got to bring them in, teach it, and bring them back to what they're supposed to remember when they leave. So that's kind of comes natural to me. Because there's so much that we talked about. The first one of the first things is kind of a comment, but pay attention to yourself about the three weeds. If you're complaining, or you're blaming, or you're excusing, making excuses, are you in that mode? Because, like you said, we all do. If you don't, you're lying to yourself and to us. So catch yourself. I catch myself in the complaining. I know right where I need to work on that come Monday. So I'm right there.
But you
So
also get aware of other people, Dave, when they're doing it, and you
Yep.
know where they are, and then your conversation can change with regards to them. And it's
Yeah,
the
where
same
they're
in the
at.
quadrants. Yeah, if you're really highly aware of the quadrants, you know where someone else is, where they are, and what you need to do to change. Like, I might be having this here podcast with you, and you might be in a low negative. So I need to have the conversation to lead you somewhere where you enjoy something, to take you out of that, so as I can have the conversation that we really want to have. So it's so powerful that way as well.
Okay, so we're having him back because we got to talk about these quadrants.
we got to do this 4 quadrant.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna do that. So find out. I love that part. Now we even added more. So when the three weeds come up, is it you, or is it you see it from someone else? Just pay attention.
Yeah.
In that moment, and then also in that, when you get into a mode, do your self check in. Okay, where are you? Maybe 3 times a day, just like, hey. Or if something's coming up, you're like, I'm feeling this. Okay, stop and do a check in. Where am I at? Am I going to let this thing rule me right now, or am I going to take control of it, kind of thing? So self check in, and then the last thing is just kind of a thought from Grandma, but it's also work it into your life. Don't walk with your head down, okay? Because if you do, you'll never see the sky and the birds that are in it. And from that, if you're looking for the bad, it'll always be there. But if you're looking for the lessons, you will see them and you'll learn. So keep your head up. Don't look down. If you are looking down, do a self check in. That'll get you back to where you need to be, and then pay attention to your weeds. So, and
Dave, that's been brilliant for me too. Now this evening as well, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you sort of know me warts and all now, you've got more out of me maybe than most people know about me. And if any people over here actually tune into that, they might go, fuck me, listen tomorrow. And go on the phone to me and say, yeah, you shithead, you never told me any of that. You know what I mean? So I might open myself up for a bit of trouble or something there.
You got
but that's
24
okay.
hours to call us and say, I'm recanting the whole thing and I don't want to
No,
publish.
no.
You got 24 hours.
I'm happy.
Or 24 hours to call your friends. Just say, okay, I got to confess something real quick.
I'm good, Dave. I'm going into a good place in my life, and I'm good.
That's beautiful.
I love it.
It's beautiful.
All right, brother. Hey, so good meeting you, Stephen. This is the first time I met
Thank you very
Stephen,
much,
so it's
David.
great
Thank
talking
you.
to
It
you.
was a pleasure being on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
And
awesome.
remember, everybody out there, if you get a chance, as you're listening, make sure you share it with your friends. Give us comments. Like us. Do whatever. Make sure you share it because I'm sure someone out there in your life can probably, use
There
this
it
from
is.
it. And a big thanks to Stephen out there again. And remember, have a great week and keep that smile on.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks for
Thank
tuning in,
you.
everybody.